Picture this. You're in the late 50s. The railway system is at a point of more variation than ever before, with lines being served by steam engines new and old, early diesel locomotives knocking about, and some of the first electric trains showing up here and there. The revolutionary changes around the British railway network were being brought about by the 1955 Modernisation Plan, which encouraged the phasing out of steam locomotives in favour of more efficient diesel and electric traction. The BTC, or British Transport Commission, decided that locomotives should be sorted into groups of power output. By the late 50s, only one or two locomotives had managed to fulfill the criteria of a Type 3 locomotive, this group requiring an output power of over 1,500 horsepower and less than 200. In order to fix this, the BTC ordered 42 locomotives from English Electric with a similar design to the successful 90 class, which was exported to Africa a few years earlier. This order was of such short notice that there was no time for a prototype. English Electric, however, had no problems with doing their job and fulfilling the order by 1960. To weaken costs and time constraints, the new train would be based largely off of the slightly older English Electric Type 4, or Class 40, with a near-exact body design and components, but with a lighter and less powerful V12 CSVT engine, which has a power output of 1,750 horsepower. So, how's the manufacturing going? Pretty good, we've almost finished building your 42 sets. Yes, build 267 more. Basically, the BTC was so enthusiastic about the new locomotives that before the fleet was ever finished, before there were any trials, they decided to make 7 more orders. Put in service as a general-purpose freight and passenger locomotive, many of the 309 total sets were fitted with boilers and steam heating systems for passenger services. The Type 3s were built in 2 ways, the first of which being where the head code was displayed in 2 halves, with a very tight door in the centre. The door was made supposedly so that train crew could get between locomotives while the train was in motion. I can't say I'd love that experience. The horns were located here and here. The second option was where there were marker lights in the middle of the nose, leaving no space for a nose end door, and the horns being located on the roof here. It's hard to say where they operated, because pre-privatisation they never really stayed in the same place. However, some notable lines the Type 3 served were the West Highland Line in Scotland and many loco hauled routes in Wales. In the 70s, the computer-based TOPS was integrated into the rail system. They were registered no longer as the EE Type 3, and now as the Class 37 we know and love today. There were 7 subclasses, all with different specs. The Class 37 is just the base locomotive, with no extra systems at all. Class 37-3s were locos that were given re-geared bogies. The Dash 4s were refurbished sets, which had their steam heating systems replaced with electric heating systems. Dash 5s were just Dash 4s, but without electric heating. The Dash 6s are quite interesting. They were originally modified to haul Nightstar overnight services through the Channel Tunnel, but when this utterly flopped, the sets were sold to DRS. The main distinguishable quality about these specific locos is their interesting headlight placement. Dash 7s were sets modified for heavy freight work, being given a new gearing system and more ballast. Finally, the 37-9s began as a group of 4 experimental locomotives with Merley's engines, and eventually 2 more locos joining the group with experimental Ruston engines and GEC alternators. These sets were stored in 1999. As a result of privatisation, the nation's railways were divided into regions and sold to private companies. By the 2000s, most freight runs operated by 37s to begin with were now being operated by newer rolling stock, including the grids and the sheds. At this point, a large sum of locomotives had been stored or scrapped. To begin with, small fleets of 37s were sold off to the English, Welsh and Scottish Railway and direct rail services. EWS often used their 37s in pairs, either doing dual haulage or top and tail runs for their freight services. They also occasionally leased off locomotives for charter services, and the occasional passenger service. For example, that one time they ran on the Rimley Valley line because the 769s were late in delivery. Eventually, EWS evolved into DB Schenker, and not much changed until 2010, where they announced that the 37s would be removed from service and replaced with this thing. DRS also owned a few sets, these having done various nuclear flask runs around the country. Due to a lack of stock, a few of these locos were on temporary lease to Greater Anglia on the Norwich to Great Yarmouth route. These were the last 37s to be recorded in working timetable passenger service, being withdrawn in 2019. Their freight services were replaced by Class 68s and 88s. Colas Rail, a freight operator that I was was only made aware of in July of last year, took 10 locomotives out of preservation and put 7 back in service. 1 locomotive was scrapped, 1 they couldn't be bothered to refurbish, and the other one just vanished from existence entirely. Last on the list of freight operators we have is Rail Operations Group, the evil cousin of Direct Rail Services. Their trains are on lease from Europhoenix and have special coupling systems that allow them to haul multiple units. These locomotives are known better on my channel as the Guts of Steam thing. Finally, we have West Coast Railways' 7 locomotives and LSL's 4. In conclusion, the 37s act as an icon for British Railways, being the flagship of rail freight for over 40 years, and still going strong today. I'd like to thank my channel members, the Train Tracker and Class 43 lover, for your support. You're the reason I haven't deleted my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking or subscribing because it helps me and really makes me happy. With all that out of the way, thank you for watching and goodbye.